God, I actually have to cut my friend. Okay, so it's been a while, everybody. I think the last time I posted this sort of like long form video content was like July of 2023. It's 2025 now. A little bit late, but happy new year, everyone. Oh, and to people who celebrate 新年快乐, because it's February. So yeah, the last time I posted this sort of like long duration sort of video content was July of 2023, when I posted that video of me reflecting on my 10 years under Singapore education. I mean, how do you guys feel about that? I honestly didn't expect that whole response. So many comments from you guys. I found a lot of you guys through that video. Thank you for sticking around, even though I haven't been posting much since then. I've been, doing so many things, and I need to update you guys on all of that. So yeah, for those of you who don't know, definitely watch that video before you watch this, because yeah, you need the context. You need the context of what I'll be speaking on in this video. Yeah, so in this video, basically, I probably should have done this sooner, but I'll be finally revealing to y'all where the heck I was headed to, what overseas school was I talking about in that whole video that I chose over Singapore education, right? So I'm gonna be revealing that. Big reveal. I'm going to be explaining what my 1 year there was like. Then finally, well, actually, you guys are gonna be shocked to hear this, but I actually quit the overseas school, and now I attend an online school. I study from home. I'm in Singapore full-time now, but I'm pretty much at home and just working on me and my stuff. So yes, without further ado, let's just get on to this video. Okay, so where the heck did I go, right? It was quite interesting reading all of your comments. Some of you were guessing where I was headed to, and yeah, some of you got it right. I mean, like, obviously, right? I think it's quite obvious the behavior I was sort of having after posting that video. The kinds of content that I was posting was like my first year in Bosnia and Herzegovina, my second term in Australia, my third term in Japan, and unfortunately, my fourth term, I actually had a fourth term. Yeah, my fourth term, I actually had it in Greece. But I'm actually as upset about this as you guys would probably be, but I lost all of the video footage for that, so there's not gonna be a video on that. But that aside, I think it's pretty obvious I've been traveling. And that's the hint. I've been traveling. So, drum rolls please. So, the overseas school that I chose over Singapore education is known as Think Global School, or in short, TGS. So, what is TGS, right? It is the world's first traveling high school where students who come from all over the world travel to a total of 12 countries over the course of their 3 years of high school. Basically, they go to a different country each term, and they'll immerse in the culture there. They'll do projects. Yeah, just learn more about the world. So that's the whole consensus of what TGS is. So I think, as aforementioned in my previous video, as much as there's a lot of pros Singapore education, some of the things I was not really satisfied about Singapore education was just how I think it's not limited to Singapore education. I think it's just the whole educational industry overall, right? Yeah, it's all about grades. It's all about grades determining your potential. I mean, I can't really like blame anyone for that. I think that's just how society works. If you're a person hiring somebody for a job, if you are a college admission officer trying to decide which student to admit into your college, you don't want to be interviewing thousands and thousands of students or like applicants in order to decide their potential, right? Maybe they do have a potential, but like you don't want to be interviewing all of them, right? And so the easiest way to determine their potential is maybe like whether they've graduated university, what university they went to, or the grades they got at high school, their GPA, their SAT score, their A-level score, their IB score. I think those are the determiners. And yeah, I guess I did decently well in that system. I was getting like decently good grades at School of the Arts Singapore, the last school I went to under Singapore education. But yeah, I guess like in my freshman year, year 3, secondary 3, yeah, at that moment I just felt like I was losing my love for learning. I didn't really know why I was learning anymore. I felt like, yeah, like sure, if I continue my education at SOTA, I'll be able to probably go to a good college, I'll probably get a good job, but I probably won't know what the heck I'm doing. I think it's just it's also got to do with my personality. I don't like to commit to stuff when it doesn't make sense to me, like fully. Like I like to understand why I'm committing to things. I think that's how I've always grown and how I've always learned and how I've always developed myself as a person. Yeah, I just committed to that sort of philosophy of life that I had. I was looking for an educational path that would allow me to do that. Really just go back to, the starting line and understand why I learn. What do I enjoy learning if I'm removed of education? Like what would happen if I'm not told to learn? Like what would I do? Like would I learn? Yeah, what would I put my time and effort into? Like what would I put my heart into? So that was the question that I had. And I think TGS embodied that whole thing I wanted to pursue during my high school years. At TGS, unlike I think any other school, there is no sit down exams. Your typical you sit down in an exam hall and then you just do a paper for an hour or like 2 hours. They don't do that. And they're actually almost like against that. I mean, they'll fund you for things like SAT, APs. They funded me for 2 of my APs, which works to be a credit in US colleges. I took AP Japanese, I took AP Chinese. They funded me for those APs, but they don't support you during that process. So nobody teaches you AP. There's no AP courses. They also don't do any form of like international qualifications. They don't do A levels. They used to do IB, but they're no longer in IB school. But you do get a US high school diploma at the end of your 2 or 3 years there. So yeah, it's just all about getting credits. It's an American school, but like it's a traveling school. So that's how TGS works. So you may be wondering like, okay, so how are they accredited with like the US high school diploma? How does that work? So you do get grades, like you do get credits, but there's no classes. I mean, there are classes, but the whole curriculum is basically project based. So you do projects. Everything is projects. Each term at a different country, you'll select what is known as a teacher-led module. So you have 4 options and then you just have to select one of them to do during that term. So like say in Bosnia and Herzegovina, my teacher-led module that I did for that term was carpentry and wood making. So I made a wooden shoe. And then in Australia, I worked on this teacher-led module, creating a multimedia piece reflecting Aboriginal culture and beliefs. So, I spent a week with the Aboriginal community in Innisfail. Yeah, like things like that. And you get your credits through that. You might not really think there's a correlation there, but like say with like the carpentry and wood carving, you'll get credits for like innovation and design, for example. Art, you also get a credit for mathematics because you do geometry, right? And then for the Australia module, I got credits for like filmmaking because I did like videography and video editing. I think if I'm not wrong, I got credits for like history, or something that's got to do with the social science, anthropology maybe, I forgot, but like you get credits like that and you do subjects like that, like in the form of projects. And then aside from that, you also get to do personal projects, as many as you want per term, or even during the breaks. One of the personal projects I did in Japan was really understanding Japanese religion and how it ties to Japanese traditions and culture. There's a Japanese theater form called No, so I went for lessons for that, and TGS funded me entirely for those lessons because you have a budget for your project. And then I also read a lot of books on Buddhism and Shinto to further my research, and then I presented that at the end of the term in what's known as a showcase. Like there's showcases at TGS where students present on their projects. But yeah, in terms of like graduation requirement, you got to get all of the credits. You also have to complete what is known as a mastery project as well as one service project. So a mastery project is basically like a large scale personal project that you commit to for like a year or more. Yeah, depending on your timeline, you can decide everything about your project. So in terms of mastery, because I only went there for a year, I didn't really do a mastery project. In terms of service project, I actually sort of developed my service project during my time at TGS, and I actually continue that to this day. So this project is called Senno. Please check this out. It's mainly for like a Japanese audience, but Singaporeans would really like appreciate to know that I designed this project because of the sort of education I got here at Singapore. Through my research, I just found out that Japanese students don't really know much about the war. I mean, justifiably so, right? Like, you don't really want to be learning about the dark side of history, especially when you are the perpetrator of that. I felt like that while I was learning Singapore's perspective on World War II, but I think it's important for Japanese people to understand other perspectives in terms of this historical event in order to understand what it means to be Japanese on the world's scale. Like, how do people around the world perceive the Japanese? So in my project, I educate Japanese students to hold a more rounded version of World War II history and specifically teach them on the Japanese occupation of Singapore from the Singaporean perspective in order to be more sensitive to people who come from different backgrounds. I want to give more like insights and perspectives, and I think really just thinking critically about different stories that could arise from a single historical event. And it's not just limited to this historical event. It basically applies to everything. So those are some of the projects that I found my passion for at TGS and continue to this day. Please support it. And finally, how grading works, right? So I talked about all of these projects. So like, how do these projects get graded? Well, you will be really, really shocked to find out that actually you grade yourself. So what happens is that before you begin your projects, you create your own rubrics in terms of what you want to accomplish by the end of this project. You have to get your rubric approved by your educators who become like mentors for a project. But yeah, like you create your own rubrics. So people are looking for different goals, and an A for a particular student could be a bit different from an A of another student because rubrics are different. So yeah, you create your own rubrics, and by the end of the term, you basically like justify why you deserve a grade. You talk to your educator who supervise your project, and you basically justify why you deserve a grade of A, why you deserve a grade of B, and then they'll give you sort of like their own perceived grade for your project, and then you'll find sort of like an intermediary between that. So that's how you get grades at TGS. So very different from SOTA, very different from probably most of the schools, 99% of the other schools that you'll find in this world. So yeah, that's how TGS works in essence. And I think it really aligned with what kind of education I wanted to experience. And I think I really just like understood that, when people are not told what to learn or what not to learn, just observing the students at TGS, I think I understood that people do have the innate desire to learn, which is not really like observed in, I think, traditional schools. I personally it was weird because I knew I loved learning, but then there were times when I just didn't want to study. I just wanted to give up, which really doesn't make sense because you like learning. Like, people love learning. When learning is taken away from them. I think TGS allowed me to understand, because people won't tell me what to learn, what not to learn. I instinctively reach out to things that I'm interested in. You know, initially I won't really understand why, but like slowly I understand how these different projects that I do connect to each other and how it relates to what I want to do. And I discovered, I guess, my passion for the human condition, specifically like identity versus universality, like what is unique to each individual, but what could be a universal experience for all of us. So I want to investigate further into that, and I think I wouldn't have found this otherwise. So yes, that was my experience at TGS, but I also feel like TGS has a unique set of experiences. I think what people take away from the experience is so different from each other's, and that's also what I appreciated about different people I met at the school. Even though it was such a small community, I think the total number of students was like 40 students. 40 students. So yeah, I think like it's also just that privilege. I was really definitely privileged to be able to go there. I think the teacher to student ratio was like 4-1 or something. You get such a strong bond with your teachers. We call them educators, but like you have someone to think life through with. And that's also something I really appreciated about TGS, that sort of guidance that you get from a teacher and also students. Yeah. Now I just want to talk about why I'm a quitter. No. Like why I quit TGS despite all of the wonderful things that I talked about at the school. So first of all, I just want to lay it out that it was definitely a dilemma, still is. You know, there's times when I feel like, oh, I wanted to continue TGS. Maybe I should have continued TGS, and I'll be talking more about this. But basically, this story goes like this. Being really frank out here, very vulnerable, and let's just be real, okay? So I didn't even think much about how I would be quitting TGS by the end of my first year there. But I guess what prompted it all was like at the end of my third term of my first year there, I received the details of school tuition fees for my second year. We basically found out that they reduced my scholarship, and understandably so, because yeah, I mean, like my family's financial prospects definitely improved over that year. So it was possible for my family to pay that tuition that they offered. And it was still a very generous amount. Yeah, I was receiving a much more generous amount in my first year. Yeah, and I guess I did want to go to college, and I just thought like yeah, like the implications of spending the money here, that could mean, you know, sacrificing my college tuition. But I mean, maybe I could get a scholarship for my college tuition, but just like weighing the risks, right? Before TGS, I definitely did well in sort of like the academic. I sort of believed in my potential to be able to have a good chance at getting into like a good college. Yeah, like it just got me thinking. Well, I mean, they don't really explicitly say it, but like they don't really like give you support in terms of college. Most of my close friends at TGS were like seniors, so they were applying to college during the year that I went to TGS. Some of them shared about how like they weren't getting much support for college from TGS. I think also like the nature of like moving around and traveling, I think it's quite hard. Yeah, I think a lot of people, they shared with me about how like they were sort of lost within that whole process. I think some of them had external help, or just they figured it out themselves. I know some of them like decided to take a gap year after that. So I was sort of like, I guess, afraid to fall into that situation of not really receiving that help for college, because I did want to go to college, because I wanted to, yeah, like I want to pursue sort of academia. I want to go to an environment where academics is taken like seriously. I think TGS is much more about exploring yourself and exploring your likes and dislikes through the world, rather than like delving into like one specific thing deep, just because like, yeah, you don't really have the time for that, because you only spent like I think 2 months in a country, and it's very hectic and it flies by. Yeah, I think it just goes to show that no school is perfect, no school can do everything. So I think this experience really like told me that. And also like I still had 2 years of my high school left, so if I were to leave, that was the moment that I was to leave. So that's when I decided to leave TGS, and I reverted back to traditional education. I now go to an online school. I do A levels. I chose online school because I still wanted that time to work on my extracurriculars and my projects, which I found my love for, and really like pursued that love for learning, just because, you know, just learning to learn. I still wanted to continue that process, that learning process that is only for me and not for societal definition of success. I wanted to find my own story. I wanted to learn for me. So I wanted time for that. So that's why I chose online school, even though I did consider going back to School of the Arts Singapore, like SOTA, or like just physical international schools. So that was the sort of gist of it. But I think like it was definitely like a huge dilemma, and still is. I think continuing TGS at that moment would have really meant like committing to that path of learning for me and learning for my own success, my own definition of success, without caring about like external recognition of my own achievements. Like really just committing to me. I think TGS really stands for that, like living your life for you. Reverting back to traditional schooling really meant, yeah, I gave in to societal sort of definitions of success. I thought I needed to have numbers in my resume in order to get into a good college, getting a good job, getting recognized by other people for my worth. So I think, yeah, like the two extremes, right? I think it was probably the most difficult dilemma I've ever faced in my life. I think through this video, I just really want to generate a conversation on society as a whole, like the whole industry of education, right? I mean, like, no school can do everything, but it's also just like, it's crazy because like people judge you for your worth in a matter of seconds, just because of like your grades, just because of your what kind of school you went to, just the qualifications, the kind of certificates, prizes you've won. But like nobody really listens to like the process of it all, like how you arrived at that grade, how like the studying that went into all of that. They only look at the outcome of things you've worked for, and me too, right? Like I do judge people based on what kind of college they went to, what kind of grades they get. I think to a certain extent you do like judge people based on that because it's quick, right? Just bringing up the example that I brought up at the beginning of this video. If you were to hire somebody, if you were a college admission officer admitting someone to that college or school, I think the most like precise and like exact way of measuring that person's potential is really just looking at the numbers. Essays, maybe they'll come in the later selection, but your worth is defined by numbers. And yeah, like TGS meant deviating away from that, really just saying F you to society and just walking my own path. But yeah, like I was sort of like a scaredy cat, if you want to say it that way, if you want to frame it that way. I think, yeah, like I do love being recognized by other people. I love being thanked. I love receiving external recognition. Yeah, I do definitely believe that like not really much of like the qualification kind of things, but going to a good college would mean meeting lots of wonderful people that I can be inspired by, and I want to be in an environment like that. I want to be in an environment where I'm pushed, and therefore I just have to give in for the time being to these numbers that will define my worth. So I reverted back to traditional education. So yeah, I think like that's sort of like the whole conversation I wanted to bring about, you know, through an anecdote of my own story of experiencing different kinds of educational paths. Yeah, I mean, like human society is just so intriguing, don't you think? Like I don't know, at the end of the day, like, it's, you live life for you, but also, like, you can't really, like, survive. Well, I mean, you could survive, but it's like human society is just built up on these qualifications that people hold on to, right? Like that title. People see your worth for that title. Yeah, like I would dream of really just like being able to interview thousands and thousands of people in order to determine their worth, but the current educational industry isn't like that. It's just determining people's worth based on their numbers, no matter how wonderful of a person they may be. So I don't know, I don't think there's an answer for that. It's just I guess like this is where I stand now. And this is the conclusion I came to. And yeah, this year I'm going to be applying to college. Currently I'm considering mostly like colleges in the United States. So yeah, that's also why I wanted to go to an online school. I just wanted to commit to my extracurriculars as much as my studies. I thought this would give the time for that. Yeah, this is sort of like the decision I made this time around. And sometimes, yeah, I do sort of like think about the alternate life I could have led. But yeah, this is how you move on, just how society works. I hope I just generated that discussion, that sort of thought for you, like what education is. Is it about igniting that love for learning? You know, that it's a lifelong journey to learn, but it's like it's sort of becoming almost like a checkbox, right? Like this is the extent that you have to learn. Like this is how much you have to learn, and then you just learn that, right? Because it's in the syllabus, you learn that. But that's also not learning. That, or is it? Like, is that learning? Like, because that's how most of the education in the world is like, honestly. Yeah, you just learn the content that it's in your textbook, and that's it to how much you should know, like, and how much you have to know. Like you just know that and you're set. But is that the sort of culture we want to bring about? Is that how we want to define learning for kids, right? I don't know, like for me, the most memorable learning moments came from school trips, or yeah, like the whole research on Japanese religion, Buddhism and Shinto. Like there was a reason behind why I was learning, because I want to discover my Japanese identity further. And I can probably give you an explanation on how Buddhism and Shinto works right here and right now. Like, but I don't remember what I learned in, although I did really like that. Like I don't really quite remember the story of War Horse. It's a play that I read for my literature class. Sorry, my literature teacher, but I don't really remember the content of that because I just read that just to get that grade for my literature class. And also just like right now, I'm doing A-levels, and like I just realized how much I forgot. Like I don't remember a lot of the scientific concepts, so I'm really struggling to revert back to traditional education right now, because it's a lot of like memorization, and the things I memorized, they're all forgotten, right? Yeah, like a year ago, I forgot them all because I didn't learn them for me. I didn't. I just learned them because in order to get that grade. So does that make me smart? Even though I did get a pretty good grade then. But I forgot them all now. So am I smart? I don't know. Just like, it's crazy education. But I'm still living through that. Yeah, like I hope it made you think about the kind of education we're putting our children through. I mean, I'm still a kid, but like, yeah, like putting our children through, right? Just because we want children to get into a good college, have a good life. But is it a good life if it's just grades? It is. It'll get them far. It'll bring them to far places. But also, like, would they enjoy life? Would they enjoy learning? Are they learning? Is the question I want to post today. So that's where I stand right now, and this is my life update. Right, I gotta do work. Yeah, I'm actually dying, guys. But I am enjoying the process, I think. Yeah, I'll give you an update soon. But please support me in the projects I'm doing so that, you know, my worth speaks for itself through its numbers to the colleges. So yes, please do that for me. All of the links are in my profile. You got my back. See you.